Nokia's Event-Driven Automation, or EDA, is a network automation platform that aims to help network engineers achieve predictable, error-free operations so you can keep up with all the change tickets coming your way while ensuring the data center is reliable and performant. On today's Tech Bytes podcast, sponsored by Nokia, we're going to talk about how EDA uses intent-based networking and Kubernetes to build a digital twin of your production network to help you test changes and run pre- and post-checks so you get a rock-solid, reliable data center network. Our guest is Andy Lapteff, Senior Product Marketing Manager of Data Center at Nokia, and many of our listeners will recognize Andy's voice as he's a co-host of the Art of Network Engineering podcast. Andy, welcome to the show. You recently joined Nokia. I'm just curious, as a network engineer, what was your exposure to the company prior to being employed by them?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. This is like a dream come true. I'm on Packet Pushers. Yay. Listen, I had no idea Nokia was in the networking space, right? Let alone the data center space. I spent a decade managing data center WAN environments, and there's three big names that we all think about. I'm not going to say them out loud, but three vendors pretty much own that market. So I didn't know Nokia was in the space. And my first exposure to Nokia was when Mike Bouchang announced on LinkedIn he was going there. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting move. But Mike's a smart guy, so interested to see how this goes. Around the same time of Mike's announcement, I was interviewing for a role at my dream logo, right? Another company name we won't mention, but Tom Hollingsworth around that time invited me to be a delegate at NFD exclusive with Nokia. It was this all day, event where they
Network Field Day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Network Field Day. I had been there before. It was great. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's do this. And, I'm a curious person by nature. So like at that event, they started to say things that were like, they started to get my attention. Right. So like, I'll just walk you quickly through what I learned there. I learned they have a complete hardware portfolio, right? Didn't know that. Tomahawk, Trident, Jericho platforms, like all the speeds and feeds everybody has. Like, okay, cool, you'd expect that. Mm-hmm. Kind of what got my attention was their mission critical network. So I learned that like a lot of the world's mission critical infrastructure is built on Nokia networks. Think like air traffic control, train signaling, power grids, networks that have to be reliable, right? Like networks whose failures mean people could be hurt or worse. So they got my attention there. I'm like, okay. Nokia, this sounds pretty cool. It did not sound like production networks I've managed, right? Thinking back to my prod days, no matter how hard we tried, reliability was very hard to create and come by. Another thing they talked about at Network Field Day was their software quality. It is, the most modern NOS. They say it has all this embedded telemetry. It's orders of magnitude better than competition if you look at CVEs as a proxy for quality. So it starts to make sense. Like, okay, you need high quality hardware, great software to deliver reliable networks, mission critical, okay. And the way they framed the problem, I thought was interesting. So if you guys will play along for a minute, I'm going to ask you two quick questions.
Sure.
What time of year are networks most stable?
Holidays.
Christmas.
Why are networks most stable during the holidays?
No change windows.
You don't mess with them, exactly.
We don't mess with them. Exactly. So as an industry, right, we're complicit in building out a discipline where our stuff works best when everybody goes home and stops touching it. It's a little embarrassing, okay? There was a report in Uptime Intelligence that they had talked about. They looked at 25 years of data and determined that 2/3 of network outages are caused by human error. That's a lot of mistakes. I know I've made plenty of them in production. Again, my friend Mike Bouchang joked there that if we built airplanes like we built networks, he would walk everywhere and he would always be looking up for falling airplanes. that man is a wordsmith, right? But this is the problem that they wanted to solve. Nokia decided to address the safety issue. If we want to make networking as safe as the aviation industry, there's a couple lessons we can learn. Redundant everything, right? 2 engines, 2 pilots, checklists. I don't know if you've ever been on a plane, right? Walking by the pilot, but they have all these checklists they go through to make sure that the plane is right before they go do the thing. And if you see all the dials and things on the wall in front of them, they have real access to fine grain telemetry. Like, how is the system working in real time? What is happening? So kind of where they wrapped up. And again, now I'm completely, enraptured by the story that they're telling me. They say, if we apply these lessons from the aviation industry to the networking operations space, that is fraught with peril, right? We know this. We can drive safety, remove fragility in networks, and make changes to our networks without breaking them. We don't all have to stop touching everything to make our network stable. And if networks aren't fragile, we can move fast with confidence. I know that's a lot of words, but I had no idea Nokia was in networking. I went to NFD. They told me what I just told you. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to know more.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons you're here, because now you're working for Nokia and you're out to let folks know that yes, Nokia is a player in data center networking. And the specific topic is event-driven automation, or EDA. And what is that?
Network automation. Hopefully you haven't followed me anywhere publicly and heard me complain about network automation over the years, because
I
now
know
I
your
am a
complaints
product.
because you said, I don't want to become a programmer just to automate my network.
Listen, there's probably a reason that, less than 30% of the industry has really adopted network automation. And I know through the network automation forum that, this conversation has been happening, and it's really good. So I guess, again, at NFD, when I saw EDA, so what is it? Nokia's event-driven automation, or EDA. It's a cloud-native automation platform whose goal is to drive human error zero. We talked about 2/3 of outages caused by humans. The problem we wanted to solve is, let's drive human error to zero. Let's stop, let's create networks that we can touch without them falling over all the time. It's designed to ensure reliability, simplicity. The extensibility part's kind of cool. It's a very open kind of philosophy where if you are a super coder person, you can create your own functionality in there, and in an app store they have that we'll probably talk about a little later. But it focuses on, predictable and error-free operations. It does things like pre-checks, post-checks, intent automation. There's a built-in digital twin. Hello. I never was able to test my changes. My tests were hit the return button at 2 o'clock in the morning and pray, right? So confidence was always relative when I was managing networks, and we never knew if a change was going to blow up our networks or not. I was the intelligent decision maker, and I had little insight into state, and I couldn't test changes. So I love that EDA gives network operators the not only visibility into the state of the network, which again, I never felt like I had. We were very reactive. When Spectrum would blow up or the phone would ring because customers were mad, that's when we start looking. With all this built-in rich telemetry that EDA brings in, you can see the state of the network, and then the event-driven part, you can build in workflows so that if thing happens, do other thing. I could literally sleep through an event that would be auto-mitigated with EDA.
So EDA is a system by which I, as a network engineer, can implement changes on the network. It feels like a framework. I was thinking it was more like a reactionary system that could do the last bit of what you just said there. Oh, something happened, take this action, and that's in there. But this is way bigger than that.
It is, and something I failed to mention is the natural language ability it has. I know everybody's baking AI into everything, right? But I will tell you that I saw at the demo at Networking Field Day, you can ask your infrastructure in natural language any question you want, just like I talk to my 10-year-old son, and it will respond to me and give me answers. We were at NFD, and they said, just as a joke, show me all interfaces with Riz. Now, I don't know if you know this new fangled terminology the kids are using, but Riz means cool. And EDA translated that as up, right? So show me all interfaces with Riz, and it showed me. Not that any network engineer would ever do that, but you can ask it ridiculous, skibbity whatever Riz, and it will know what you're talking about because it's
I'm not sure
AI
this
on
is
the
an
back end.
advancement, but yes, I see the value of a system you can query with natural language. So you said a couple of things, and I also said, cloud native and Kubernetes, but we're talking about my on-prem data center. What is the cloud component? And does this mean data is going somewhere from my switches up to the cloud?
So EDA's gathering streaming telemetry, and I'll be honest with you, I am not streaming telemetry expert, right? I know it's using GNMI, there's gRPC. These are a lot of things that I'm not aware of, I didn't have access to in my tooling, but it's gathering streaming telemetry. What is it gathering? Faults, TCAM usage, control plane insights, fabric workload, right? Where does it go? EDA is a Kubernetes-based environment, so it can be on-prem, it can be in the cloud, anywhere you can run Kubernetes. I have it running on my MacBook, right? Wherever you can run Kubernetes, is where this would go. There's a state aggregator that gives you a uniform interface, and you can query, like we talked about earlier, and ask, the state of your network, what's happening, and it's really compelling when you see it.
So this isn't a SaaS service per se. This is something I can run on-prem if I want, but it's using cloud-native constructs like Kubernetes to build this software application.
You can run it on-prem, you can run it in the cloud, and there is I don't know if this has been officially released, and I don't know if my friend on the call will yell at me, but there is a SaaS solution now where it is a fully hosted
Okay.
EDA environment that you can leverage as well. So whether you want to run it in your own cloud environment, on-prem, or leverage the SaaS environment, it's all there.
What network operating systems are supported? Are we talking about just Nokia's SR Linux or other ones too?
Haha, multi-vendor, right? um, every environment I've worked in has been multi-vendor. So what is supported? Nokia's SR Linux, obviously, right? That's their NAS. There is planned support for Sonic soon. And I believe there is one other vendor on the roadmap, either Cisco or Arista. I don't know which, and I don't know when, but that is coming. So this is for hybrid environments. And kind of another cool thing that I think I should mention is because of the open nature, there's an app store. So EDA sees every functionality as an application or an app. So just like you would go in your iPhone or Android app store and grab something, EDA sees a fabric as an app, right? So if you don't like EDA's opinions on what a fabric is, and you're a coder guru, you can write your own fabric app. I believe it's in Python. I might be corrected. And put it right in the app store and pull it in for yourself. If there is a functionality in a vendor that EDA doesn't support, you can make it yourself and integrate it in there. So I love this kind of like open, extensible Kubernetes, cloud native thing going on, because it's all very new to me, and I haven't seen that in other places.
Well, give us an example. Are we talking like I want to build a, I don't know, leaf spine network? I can pull an app down that'll hook into EDA and help me create that network?
Yeah, everything's an app, and all the state is bubbled up into the apps. So, we'll have to do a demo sometime with you guys in a future one. But they show, again, I keep going back to NFD, but that was my experience, my first experience with it, and it was pretty amazing. Everything that EDA is doing is in an app. It's all coded in apps. It's modular. You can pull them in and out. And you can create your own, which I just think is really neat.
So in the Nokia ecosystem, then is this like this feels like intent-based networking? Does that mean there's like a Nokia language I have to learn to express what I'm looking for?
So there's no language. Like, I'm a traditional, what Scott Roban would call a trad NetOps person. Again, we started with like, I don't love the coding, right? Listen, I've done a little bit of Python. I've done some things because everyone's telling me I have to, but I don't like it. So like for a trad person like myself, I have a no code solution, the GUI. I can go in, I forget if it's 5 or 6 button clicks. You can click 5 buttons, fill out a very simple form, create a fabric, thousands of lines of configs are generated, and you have your state instantly, and you can see what's happening. If you're one of those, Kubernetes cloud native super nerds who want to interact, with YAML, have at it. The coders among us can extend the capabilities, like we talked about, by writing their own apps in the App Store. But yeah, you don't need coding, but if you're a coder, you can really extend the functionality in the app and import it into the App Store.
So you mentioned that EDA is creating a digital twin of the production data center. Can you talk more about that? What do you mean by that? Because there's, I think, multiple versions of digital twin floating around the industry.
It's something I wish I had in production and never did. we were talking before we recorded about our worst stories and all the fun that we have in maintenance windows as network engineers. So the digital twin is providing an emulation of your production network, right? Again, something I didn't have. We used to ask for labs to simulate our production network, and it just, wasn't in the budget. And it was really hard to emulate that in software. The digital twin emulates your production. It'll show you configuration state. It'll show you routing behavior, like, BGP, VPN, streaming telemetry. It stays synchronized. So the telemetry bubbles up. It tells you what's happening in your environment. And if you want to test a change, I forget what it's exactly called in there, but you can load up your change. It's not a commit. It's probably dry run. I might be messing up the terms, but you click that functionality and it'll do its magic and let you know whether this is safe or not. Again, much like those checklists we talked about in aviation, it will do all those pre-checks and intent and, all the EDA magic that it does that I don't fully understand because these people are brilliant and I just work here. But yeah, you're able to test a change before you push it to prod And man, that sounds really good to me because I didn't have that and I wish I did.
The idea being you can push a change in this digital twin and see what the results are, see if something breaks, see if something opens that you didn't mean to open, or so on.
Yeah, like, oh, I pushed that change and my whole fabric disappeared. Again, we're not trashing anyone here or telling war stories, but I may have been involved in a maintenance years ago where we pushed a change and all of our fabrics completely disappeared, and it was like a 7-hour outage. I won't get into why and how, but we didn't have a twin to test what we were doing. We thought it was good, and we went through all the change management and the peer reviews and all the things we do for people who don't have digital twins. And then we pushed the button in a window, and oh my God, many people were upset.
Less dramatic for me was a change window where I couldn't get past bringing this firewall online because I'd forgotten to do something very fundamental. Set the zones. I never set my zones, so no traffic was flowing through this box, and I couldn't figure out why for the life of me. Digital twin would have caught that.
Or that silly, add VLAN to a trunk thing that we've all done at least once. I forget what the command is. It's been a while, but if you don't do the syntax exactly right, that's the only VLAN that's on the trunk and everything else is gone. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to use intelligent systems to feed our ideas to them and then let us know whether it's a good idea or not, and if we're going to break all the things. So that's the theory behind the digital twin.
So Andy, we're going to wrap on this. You sort of touched on it, but if I am a network engineer, a trad engineer who's a little skeptical of network automation or maybe intimidated by what looks more like software development, is Ada for me, or do I need to be the Kubernetes YAML, whatever, dude to embrace this?
Ada is designed for network engineers first, not just software developers. Every automation platform I've used prior to this felt like it was built for software people. And I'm like, oh my God, look at all this stuff. So you don't need Kubernetes expertise. It abstracts all those complexities away. Go in the GUI if you want to. You don't need to write YAML or Python. Again, you can go to the GUI if you want. If you want to go crazy, you can. If you're comfortable with, netconf, JSON, CLI-based workflows, Ada provides familiar interfaces. If you want to go deeper, it supports advanced customization, CI/CD pipelines, GitOps scripting. But I am a trad NetOps guy. I can click buttons in a GUI and I can be happy. And that's my story.
Well, that does wrap up our time. Andy, thanks for joining us. Where should folks go if they want to find out more about Ada?
Thanks again for having me. It was fantastic. You can go to nokia.com, search event-driven automation, and get all of our information there.
All right. We'll also have links in the show notes if you're looking for more specifics, but that's nokia.com and just search event-driven automation. Andy, thanks for joining us. It's great to talk to you. And thanks to you, the listener, for also being here. If you like this episode, there are many more fine free technical podcasts and our community blog. It's all at packetpushers.net. You can follow us now on Blue Sky. That's at Packet Pushers. You can hear us on Spotify. And if you would leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. And last but not least, remember that too much networking, trad or otherwise, would never be enough.